Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Paranormal and Historic Locations and Legends. I am your host, Nick Muley. Tonight's episode we're going to be talking about is a pretty pretty notorious location. Sorry, I've lost my word there for a second. But before we get started on this, I actually have a few things here I'd like to introduce. This is actually something I didn't put in the into the preview, but during my research of what I've been doing, now starting to show movie trailers, I've actually found one film in particular I'd like to just show the trailer to. I don't know if a lot of you guys have ever seen The Uninvited, but I'm going to just show a quick trailer of it because what's really cool about this particular film is that this was the first known ghost movie of any kind to be, having a serious tone to it, because at that time, a lot of films were, they always had a comedic tone to them at that time. So I'm just going to share the screen for a moment. And as soon after when we get started with that trailer, we'll get started with the presentation right away. So give me 1 second here. Oops, that's not exactly what I was looking for. Well, you know what? No. Yeah. Oh, wait. That's what I was trying to get. Hang on, let me just make sure that this is showing on the screen. Technical issues again. Okay, you know what? No, what we'll just do is we'll just get started with this because I don't know what's going on here. All right, let's try this again. What's going on, Greg? All right, so what's really difficult about getting these slideshows going is is getting the whole thing, the whole process just to share the screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so for tonight's episode, like I said, we'll be talking about the Ettington Park Hotel, and here is a picture of it, of course. And the unfortunately, I don't have the document with me like I normally do with my my normal, like with all my other cases that I do, because unfortunately the printer ran out of ink and I didn't have enough time to refill it. So I'm just going to have to read it from the screen instead. But the history we got for this location, this one actually has quite a fascinating, really interesting history to me, in my opinion. Ettington Park, Ettington, in Warwickshire, England, is a 19th century country house with earlier origins. With the River Stour weaving in its way through the estate, Ettington Park is a spectacular neo-Gothic mansion country house with earlier origins. I don't know how that appeared, that's just repeating itself. Situated 6 miles from Stratford upon Avon in the picturesque Stour Valley. The historic home of the Shirley family, whose ownership dates from the time of the Domesday Book. The house was remodeled between 1858 and 1862 for Evelyn Shirley. Shirley's architect was John Pritchard, although the involvement of Pritchard's longtime partner, John Pollard Sedan, is disputed. This is actually one of the few photographs I was able to find of the Shirley family, especially back in the early days. And it's kind of unusual. There's really not that many photographs of, or even modern photographs of the Shirley family. I don't know if it's because they, are a relatively secretive family and they don't want the publicity. I'm not sure, but I was still fortunate enough to actually find a photograph of the Shirley family when they first eventually, bought this place. Now, the Shirleys, interestingly enough, was one of Warwickshire's oldest Warwickshire's oldest families, owned by Ettington for many years. Their lineage can be traced to over 1,000 years, dating back to 1086, which is like, wow. You don't really hear too many families out there that actually have documents that go back to over 1,000 years. That's, quite the family. They've been they've managed to keep themselves going. So, and especially establishing a business like this at Ettington Park. So now, before the Shirley family ever acquired the Ettington Park Hotel, we have to go back several centuries. Before the reign of Henry III, the nearby estate of Lower Ettington was the principal seat of the Furze family, Furrers family, I think that's how you say it, who later moved their seat to Shirley, Derbyshire. I mean, Derbyshire. Derbyshire, right? Ah, these names. Uh, According to Alice Dryden, Sir Ralph Shirley leased the manor in 1509 to John and Agnes Underhill for a term of 80 years. His son Francis made another lease for a term of 100 years to the same family in 1541. During Francis Shirley's time, the manor house may have been demolished and rebuilt, or at least modernized. The lease of Ettington came to an end in 1641 in the lifetime of Sir Charles Shirley, who entered possession of it the following year in 1642. See, I just what I've actually been doing now with comments is just using my phone to see who's all on. Just want to give a shout out, Greg. I know I already said hello to you, Don. Good to see you. I do apologize if I can't see anybody else's because I'm only able to see this through one of the channels broadcasting this. So, anyways, extensive repairs occurred under him. A large part of the building was taken down and replaced with a newer and smaller house constructed with the original and salvaged materials. And I believe that was it's actually probably the only known painting I had managed to find of Sir Charles Shirley. Because again, obviously in those days, even back then, despite that this was at an era where a lot of people had portraits made of themselves, because, they didn't have photographs, obviously, at that time. Even for some people, there just really wasn't that many, paintings or portraits of these individuals. Either, I guess my speculation is that they just didn't, did not have enough time to, get their portraits made, or if there ever were any particular individuals, I'm sure, sadly, a lot of them probably have been lost to time. And that's why we only see certain ones that have not only been found, but, have been reserved for the most part. Now, about 1740 and again in 1767, additions were made by George Shirley. His that is Evelyn John Shirley. My mistake. His grandson Evelyn John Shirley made alterations in 1824. It was restored by John Pritchard for Evelyn Shirley as mentioned earlier in 1858 to 62 in the advanced early English style. Let's just see here. I just want to make sure things are going correctly on this. I don't know why the captions are on. Yeah, okay. So moving forward, the hall, as I mentioned before, is an 1858 to 62 remodeling of an earlier house. Again, probably mid-17th century with mid-18th century additions. Pixford and Pensford, in their 2016 Warwickshire, are certain that the Victorian remodeling was the sole work of John Pritchard. Historic England considers that John Pollard Seddon, Pritchard's longtime partner from 1852 to 1862, was also involved. In the late 20th century, further alterations and additions were carried out. Okay, that was weird. Somehow got stuck. Let's try that again. Now, the house is, even though you guys have already seen a photograph of it, I'll still describe it as it is now. The house is constructed in yellow gray and banded limestone ashlar with a roof that's made of stone slate. The style is neo-Gothic. The architectural historian Sir Charles Eastlake noting significant Ruskinian influences. I do apologize for some of the mistypes because it's been a while since I've actually checked on some of the mistypes I may have accidentally made. But as usual, usually after when I do these, I often will go back and correct that. So Eastlake provides support for Pickford and Pevsner in attributing the house, called at that time Ettington Park in the mid-19th century, solely to Pritchard. The house is an E-shaped plan with 2 stories and attics. The interior retains much of its original early and mid-Victorian configuration and fittings. The staircase hall is of 1810 to 11, while the library was decorated pretty much now exactly 200 years ago in 1820. The long gallery and great drawing room are are part of Pritchard's remodeling. Now, in 1935, pretty much well over 115 years later, the mansion became a nursing home and, is like many locations at that time, was used as a camp for prisoners of war during World War II for a brief time period. Excuse me, during World War II, and then also not long after that, for a brief period, it was also a club. Now, before we continue onwards with it, I don't know if a lot of you guys really knew a lot about this place, but this place eventually, Eddington Park eventually became the filming location of pretty much one of the best and certainly one of the scariest haunted house ghost movies, paranormal movies, you want to call it, you could ever think of. And that movie was actually The Haunting. So, and what I'm about to tell you guys next, it's going to be pretty shocking from what you guys are going to hear. Uh, Honestly, during my research of putting this whole presentation and document together, upon hearing not only that The Haunting was filmed at this location, but knowing that I guess certain things actually did occur, you know, during production of this movie, it just kind of really blew me away. So, nothing like I've ever seen, nothing that I was expecting at least. Let's see who's on. Good evening, Natalie. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, before I continue onwards, I don't know why the captions are still on this. So we're going to turn those off because that's starting to get a little distracting for me. How do you turn that off? Oh, wait. Yep, here we go. Okay. So anyways, in 1963, exterior shots of the hotel were used for the outside of Hill House for the horror film The Haunting, directed by Robert Wise, based on the 1959 novel The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Unfortunately, well, actually, no. Before we get more to what happened in The Haunting, let me correct myself on that. Let's get through the rest of the history of this place first. Unfortunately, a fire in 1979 did a lot of damage to the building, and it was locked up for 3 years and deteriorated badly. Now, in 1983, the house, along with the land, was leased to the ISIS Hotel Company, and a restoration program worth millions of pounds was undertaken to return the mansion to its old glory. Eddington Park then officially opened as a luxury hotel. Today, it is now managed and operated by Handpicked Hotels Limited. The former owners, which is the Shirley family, still regularly visit their former adobe, and they continue to maintain ownership of the land in the surrounding areas. And of course, not much of the building has changed since then. So, I'm very impressed to see that not only does it still look the same as it was when The Haunting was filmed at that location, but throughout most of its, aside from parts of the remodeling of this place, uh, and maybe partial, changes, you can clearly see that the building is still pretty much the same. Oh, wait, hang on one second. I got to stop sharing for just a second here because I just realized I forgot to change one other thing here in the background because that's just something I normally do. Let's see. Okay, where's the photo I just had? Okay, here we go. All right, so continuing forward, let me just get the damn screen to. Here we go. So for Eddington Park, as of today, as I mentioned earlier before, it is located to the southwest of the village of Ettington, just north of the hamlet of Newbold on Stour. It is set in 40 acres passed by the River Stour. And to this day, what's even cool about this place is Eddington Park is considered the most important and impressive high Victorian house in the county. So Now you know about the history, obviously. Now let's get to the ghost stories. So, when you think of a hotel like this, and considering that this place had existed for several centuries, especially due to the fact that it's also been owned by a family for nearly 1,000 years, Ettington Park Hotel, not surprisingly, has long had a reputation for being one of the most haunted hotels in the UK. It was even named by as such by the AA, which I never figured out exactly what the AA is, unless anyone else knows. You know, I got to be honest with you. Just despite having that reputation, I think a lot of you guys probably have seen that there is not really there's never really been a lot of shows that have actually gone to that location. You don't see, like, Ghost Hunters had never been there, as far as I know, that is. Um, and I know I'm not a big fan of this. Ghost Adventures has never been there. There's really only been a few shows that I know of that have actually gone to this location. Let me just see who we got on. Hey, what's going on, Ernie? Oh, that reminds me. I'm sorry. Oh, wait a minute. That's weird. I'm looking at the screen and this is not showing up. Hang on one second, guys. Having another issue here. Okay, it was just working fine just a minute ago. Okay, let's try to. That's not what I wanted. Hold on one second, guys. I don't know what's going on here. All right, let's try this again. I don't know why it wasn't showing on the showing up. Let me just make sure it's showing on the phone this time. Okay, here. Oh, okay, here we go. So, okay, I already went through all that. So, but yeah, like I said before, this is really a place that I'm really surprised hasn't been investigated more. In fact, one of the few times it did appear on a television show, on any type of paranormal show, was back in the late 90s. So about well over 20 years ago. I can't remember what the show was called, but the interesting thing about the investigation that took place at this at Ettington Park was it was actually investigated by a group that's called the Ghost Club. I don't know if a lot of you guys are very familiar with them, but the Ghost Club, I think they're probably unlike any other paranormal group that I know of. The Ghost Club is the old, not only they are they're the oldest paranormal group, not only just in the UK, but in the world. They've been in operation since 1861. Although there are a few origins of them when they started having the interest of forming a group like this back in 1855. So between 1855 till now, they really have, they've probably really experienced a lot. And Ettington Park, the Ettington Park Hotel, just happens to be one of those locations that they investigated back in the late 90s. But anyways, going back to Ettington Park, over the years, many members of staff and guests alike have reported strange sounds and noises, bumps in the night. Others have reported seeing apparitions, ghosts, and poltergeist activity with objects moving unaided in the many rooms that make up the historic building. Let me just see here. Are any original members still for the Ernie, I think the original members, I think they are long gone. That I think probably honestly that's gonna be a question you're gonna have to ask the Ghost Club about. Don, yes, you're very welcome. Definitely a very beautiful history. Again, I'm even more surprised that a place like this that's been around for over 1,000 years, or almost, well, excuse me, no, that was owned by the family for over 1,000 years. A place that's been at least around for centuries is not really has never. I mean, I think honestly, this is probably one of the few castle-like structures in the UK that never had a terrible history to, because a lot of these castles, when you think about, you know, different castles throughout the United Kingdom, like let's say for example, Chillingham Castle. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with this location. That had a brutal history to it. There were other castles just like that during the early ages. Not necessarily all of them, but a good portion of them did. And obviously, this place, the Ettington Park Hotel, never had that. But regardless, clearly you can still, I mean, it still clearly has its share of paranormal activity. Now, most disturbingly are the reports of voices emanating from the air and the overwhelming feeling of an unseen presence in the bedrooms and an accompanied chilling sensation of being watched from the shadows by unseen ghosts during the small hours. Now, what we're going to do now is we're actually going to be looking into different sections of the hotel where supposedly a lot of this paranormal activity occurred. The first place we got here, obviously, is the hotel library. Books and papers move mysteriously, being pulled from the library shelves. Poltergeist activity and related phenomenon, voices of gentlemen chatting have been heard, along with the sound of billiard balls knocking together and being potted. Now, the library itself also experiences dramatic changes in temperature, often accompanied by the ghostly presence of a female figure. One member of staff has even reported seeing a ghost of a man dressed like a priest. Perhaps most telling of all is the strange case of the Sir Walter Scott book of St. Ronan's Well. This ragged old tome regularly comes tumbling off the shelf and falls open to one page and time again, despite the fact that the spine is not worn in this place. As it says, what frightening portent does this page contain? So I've never really heard of a place like, obviously, of a certain type of activity where you have a book fall off. I mean, yes, we've all heard stories of objects being moved by unseen hands, but most of the time they're always just scattered about, just randomly. But for one particular book to just simply fall on one page, there's obviously some kind of message that's going on here. Let's see who else we got here. Hey, Denise, thanks for tuning in. Let's see what else we got here. Now, apparently, what frightening portent does this page contain? A merry place, 'tis said in days of yore, but something ails it now. The place is cursed. This ominous, I cannot speak today. This ominous message has rightfully sent chills down the spines of many generations of Ettington Park's visitors. The next location we got here is the Stour Corridor. In the Victorian era, children, unfortunately, unlike today, had much shorter life expectancies that would be considered acceptable now. Many of them passed away from maladies, accidents, and poverty. Such was the case at the hotel when two young children belonging to the Shirley family, innocently playing on hotel grounds by the River Stour, were caught up in the current, swept away, and drowned around 1800. These drowned children are known to make themselves apparent to guests in the Stour Corridor, as well as several other areas of the hotel, most recently to a woman staying in the aptly named Stour Suite. She reported that two young children, eerily matching the descriptions of the long ago deceased pair, kept her awake all night by running up and down the stairs outside her room. No one else, of course, heard a thing. Now, another experience that did occur there was a couple was staying at the house for a weekend in the Stour Suite. Woke up during the night to hear the sound of children crying. They even thought they saw figures from the window. After returning home, the couple continued to hear children crying at night. So distressed by this, the couple sought the help of the local vicar. Lights are also known to go on and off by themselves in the Stour Corridor. Now, more about the corridor itself. It's also the regular haunting grounds of the most persistent and malicious spirit to haunt the Ettington Park Hotel, the Gray Lady. Seen by countless guests, employees, and visitors, the Gray Lady is a mysterious female figure shrouded in thick white mist. and wearing Victorian clothing, seen walking along the conservatory entrance in the Stour corridor and other areas of the property. Alarmingly, guests have reported losing control over their faculties when she is near and finding themselves inexplicably drawn to the woman despite feeling abject terror. The Gray Lady is often accompanied by a cloaked monk who may well be the priest associated with the Great Library, and many report seeing them both together. The Gray Lady has also been seen in the Tower Suite court. Yeah, sorry. When I'm sharing part of the link to stop sharing blocks part of it. The Gray Lady has also been seen in the Tower Suite corridor. Now, once again, recalling one of the events that apparently happened in this particular room was that a man was staying in the suite one night while he was washing his hair. He looked up, reflected in the mirror was a woman dressed in gray smock, rough collar, and cap who was sitting on the side of the bath. I don't know what happened next. I did try to figure out, I mean, I'm sure the guy probably eventually ran out because, he wasn't expecting anyone. But for some reason whatsoever, I could not find exactly what happened next. That was all I was able to find. The next location we have here is the main staircase. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably thinking that you didn't remember, for those who've seen the movie The Haunting, that you probably didn't really remember some of these scenes because most of the film was shot, like I said earlier, on the outside of the building. There were a few particular locations that did have the movie filmed inside, but I'm sure there were probably other areas that either they didn't have interest in wanting to film inside, which may have most likely could have just been a studio, or they were not allowed to film it because part of it, with all due respects, considering it's owned by it was owned by the Shirley family, some of it was still probably private corridors. So for the main staircase, it's said to be haunted by the specter of a sweet maidservant named Mary, who took a tumble down these accused stairs following an argument with the squire. Now, unlike some of the other spirits, she does not appear to be malevolent, but her appearance is disarming to most nonetheless. It is believed that the ghost of Mary can also be seen in the Oak Room restaurant. Her tragic story is all the more heartrending, considering that she is only one of many spirits thought to haunt this hotel. And like I said, not all these spirits are so kind. See how much time we are. Oh, we're almost to a half hour. Wow, the time goes fast. Let's see, someone else. Hey, Jacqueline, good to see you. Jacqueline, since you're from the UK, I actually would like to ask you if you know about this place, the Ettington Park Hotel. Thank you, Don. Really appreciate it. The next location we got here is the reception area. It's actually a really nice room. I got it. Well, I mean, the entire place is nice, but this is actually really very beautiful room indeed. On the eve of several Christmases, I'm sure this probably just happened a few weeks ago. So, hotel staff have reported an occurring phenomenon of a floating candle hovering just above the Elizabeth. I cannot even say that word. Elizabethan oak mantelpiece. Comments from other guests have reported a shadowy ghost-like presence by the entrance door and reception desks, and a ghostly outline of a man and his beloved dog crossing the reception area and quickly disappearing into the hotel's extensive library. It is believed that the male apparition is Edward Shirley. So once again, one of the Shirley family members. Again, considering that this place had been owned by the Shirley family. I know I've been seeing that a lot, but there's it's no surprise to me that while you have some of these certain tragedies that did occur, maybe not severely at the Ettington Park Hotel, there's no doubt that I'm sure a good majority of the ghosts of the original members and earlier members of the Shirley family still exist at this place, probably still keeping watch. I mean, considering that the modern day members of the Shirley family are, no longer really owning the place, but still checking up on it. that doesn't mean obviously their deceased ancestors are still watching over it, even in death. So the next location we have here is the Great Drawing Room. Many female voices are heard in what can only be described as singing whilst a barefooted as singing whilst a barefooted Edwardian lady has been seen several times, stood in the window on the right hand side of the room. I went a little bit too far. Other strange occurrences include poltergeist activity, the doors and curtains opening and closing without course, and an apparition of a ghostly young boy. In the long gallery, both staff and guests have reported a strong feeling of being watched, along with an oppressive atmosphere. Individuals have stated that the entire length of the gallery can suddenly drop in temperature. It has also been noted that a ghost of an army officer and an elderly lady are usually seen in the last bay window next to the fireplace. As for the corridor outside the long gallery, which unfortunately I was unable to find a photograph of the corridor itself, the ghost of John Pritchard, the architect who designed Ettington Park, has been seen strolling the length of the corridor just outside the Great Gallery. Now, before I continue on with this, I know what some of you guys are thinking. These pictures I'm showing right now don't look very spooky or haunted looking, obviously. There, of course, I wasn't able to find really a lot of creepy photographs of these different areas because, again, it's not really a place that's really heavily investigated. So that's why a lot of these pictures look so benign. But just because they have that benign appearance does not mean that, paranormal stuff occurs. Okay, so let's see who we got here. See, I'm just checking back. Okay. Now, obviously, this room looks completely like a normal office building, but that's actually part of the hotel itself, and this is the Courtyard Suites corridor. The ghost of a previous groundsman of the estate has been witnessed by several members of staff and guests. Oh, that was quick. Let's see what we got here next. The conservatory. A ghost of another elderly lady dressed in Victorian clothes haunts the conservatory. With her comes a very strong presence. Excuse me. Footsteps have been clearly heard walking back and forth. Okay, so this goes to the next one. I forgot to make a transition for this one. This was once again another place I was unable to find a photograph, which I was really surprised I couldn't. I don't know if it was because they don't allow photography in that area, but this is all I could really give for this next area, which is the Shirley Chapel. Priest hiding. Now, unfortunately, this sounds quite creepy, but a priest hiding hole was discovered in the South Transept Chapel. It is assumed that the ghost of a monk, who has been frequently reported in the other areas of the hotel, is directly related to the ghost reported being seen in the tower and grounds. Further to this, the village of Lower Ettington used to exist adjacent to the house and chapel until around 1798, and when it was where it was demolished, and the monks when it was demolished, the monks relocated 2 miles away at Upper Ettington. There have also been many ghostly sightings reported from the site of the former village, including phantoms, spirits, and dark shadows. Additional sightings in and around the estate include the ghostly form of 2 female figures which haunt the grounds. So it seems like really, I think you guys can get pretty much the idea that no matter which area of the hotel you are, whether you're inside or outside, this place obviously is extremely, extremely haunted. Wait a minute. There's the photo right there. Okay. Okay, I'm going to have to go back and get that fixed. All right. Now, we've already gone through most of the ghost stories. Now, let's really get down to business. Film business, that is. Now, let's focus on the film that was shot there, The Haunting. The hotel, as earlier previously mentioned, was personally selected by director Robert Wise to serve as the exterior filming location for the 1963 classic horror film, The Haunting, as mentioned too, based on the 1959 novel The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Some of the film's crew and actors were housed on site at the hotel for the duration of the filming, and rumors abound that actresses Julie Harris and Claire Bloom were frightened to even step foot inside the building because it was scary looking, and Wise had to reassure them. The sets were designed to be brightly lit with no dark corners or recesses and decorated in a Rococo style. All rooms had ceilings to create a claustrophobic effect on film. Of course, this was unusual as most film sets forego ceilings to add in lighting and filming. And obviously, this is quite an example with Richard Dreyfuss. Excuse me, Richard Johnson. I don't know why I said Richard Johnson, not Dreyfuss. Wrong Richard. Actor Richard Johnson said that the set's eeriness created a subdued atmosphere among the cast and crew. While shooting exterior night scenes on location at the real house, Russ Tamblyn has shared a story of having chosen to take a stroll through a cemetery at the rear of the property and having had an experience nearly as terrifying as the film itself. Now, unfortunately, I have yet to have actually heard what story that was. At some point, just so you guys know, even though it seems like I'm only presenting these presentations once, in the future, I'm actually going to be I'll be eventually doing these again, sometime in the future, probably later during this year. So while I don't have that particular information now, that doesn't mean I'll be able to find out. From what I've heard is that he actually did talk about his experience on the film's commentary, which I'm fortunate enough to have. Let me just get this out of here first. Let me just grab it first. So obviously, I do have a copy of the Haunting itself. I know the screen is a little bit small, but it does contain the commentary from Russ Tamblyn. In fact, I think he's actually the only actor from that film that is still alive today. Sadly, all the others have passed since. In fact, I think it was Julie Harris, or maybe it might have been one of the two women. I know one of them passed away almost 10 years ago. I think she was actually there for the 50th anniversary of The Haunting, but for the most part, it's just really him now. So at some point I will listen to the commentary, figure out, find out what his experience was, and hopefully I can acquire some of that information to add for a future presentation of this. Now, much like real paranormal shows, infrared film stocks were quickly rushed to the location shoot from Belgium and were used for the famous sharp contrast of the house against the dark sky and clouds. The other thing too is that the photo that you see here on the bottom, that's actually it's not one of the historic photos of the hotel itself. This is actually a screenshot from the film. Wise felt the infrared film brought out the striations of the stone and made the mansion look like more of a monster house, which it definitely does have that very intimidating appearance to it. Bolton also wanted to make distances in the film, such as hallways, look longer and darker than the audience would anticipate. Wise and Bolton also planned shots that kept the camera moving, utilized low-angle shots, and incorporated unusual pans and tracking shots. I can't even pronounce that word. To give the I'll just say this. To give the feeling that the house was alive, exterior shots were filmed so that the windows appeared to be eyes. Very much just hearing that seemed like that it was kind of almost like how can I describe? Almost like a very early version of the Amityville Horror, because when you kind of look at the Amityville movies that were made in the late, starting with the original one back in the late 70s, 80s, as well as I'm just going to say the late 70s, 80s, because only the first four movies actually have the house in it. The rest just focus on possessed possessions, as well as even along with the remake. They did always have that famous those famous scenes with the house itself looking like it had with those eye windows, almost like the house had actual eyes, like they were alive, giving a very malevolent appearance. This was kind of almost the same with the Ettington Park Hotel during the film The Haunting. Oh, that's it. Oh, I guess that I didn't even realize we were right near the end. Okay, then. Okay, so that concludes this presentation for tonight. But what I'm going to do next is wait. Let's see here. Let me just see who else joined in. Okay, let's see. Got hey, Greg, what's going on? Some people on your page too. Awesome, thank you, Greg. Really appreciate it. Let's see. So what I'm actually going to do now is hopefully the screen will work. The sharing will work because I don't know what happened before. We might end just a little bit earlier than expected, but with that, I'm actually going to show the. Let's see. I actually do have the trailer of The Haunting itself. So for those who haven't seen it, and for those who are interested in checking it out, I'm going to share the screen. Okay, hopefully, I just want to make sure that this is working this time. Oops, wrong trailer. Give me 1 second here. Okay, here we go. So here is the trailer of the original Haunting from 1963. Don't ever question me about the remake. The remake is terrible, at least in my opinion, but this is truly a classic.
God, it knows I'm here.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
Now look, Doc, we're buddies, okay? But don't try to convert me.
I'm trying to prepare you. My name's Marquay, Dr. Marquay, a scientist interested in the supernatural. The unnatural, if you like. I came to Hill House to find the key to another world. Assisting me in this exploration of the unknown was Eleanor, Nell, who could look back into the past, and Theo, something of a witch, who could see into the future. This is Luke, who didn't believe in anything, until evil, patient and waiting, made him change his mind.
Stop it! God. God. Whose hand was I holding?
How many of us take seriously the things we cannot or do not want to understand, simply because we are afraid? Eleanor, your call! Did you hear me calling?
Oh, this house. You have to watch it every minute.
The Haunting was produced and directed by Robert Wise, brilliant producer of West Side Story. The stars consist of a cross-section of top talent in the world of entertainment. Julie Harris, Claire Bloom, Richard Johnson, Russ Tamblyn. What does it take to convince you that the dead do not always rest in peace? That some houses, like Hill House, are born bad?
Definitely a classic. It truly is, without a shadow of a doubt. 1 second. It truly is a shadow of a doubt, one of the scariest horror films I've ever seen. And it really does, kind of live up to its name, if you will, because as far as I know, it's probably really one of the, if not the first real, uh, film that involved a paranormal investigation to it. It certainly, I mean, we all know that there were previous films that had the, that type of element that occurred, but it was at the same time, they always usually would put a silly or comedic tone to it. You just could not take it seriously, even if there was scenes that were supposed to be scary. But this was really the first one that really wanted to take things seriously. And and one thing that everyone always remembers with The Haunting is you don't see any ghosts, you don't see any blood, you don't see no monsters, no special effects. It's all just sounds. And for example, obviously, one of the most famous scenes in that film was the bending door sequences when the doors start bending and then the pounding just echoes throughout the entire building. But just seeing how frightened these actors really were throughout the course of filming this famous haunted house film. But also, more importantly, with the ghost stories that actually surrounded this place, it kind of makes you wonder, did some of the stuff that occurred at Ettington Park while filming was in progress, was this done by the stage crew, or more often did they just happen to be at the right place at the right time to just shoot actual paranormal activity occur? You really don't know. Let's see, we got here. Okay, Greg. Oh yeah. Oh wow, Greg, you actually saw it when first it was released. Yeah, it was back in 1963. It came out. I just realized, unfortunately, that there were a lot of comments that didn't show up on on the comments section. So I do apologize for those that did tune in. I can't show the comments, unfortunately, through here. So look like a mad ghost. Tammy, if you're still watching, it's located in Ettington, I believe south of Warwickshire in England. It's not from the state. Yeah. Greg, thank you. Heard the answer. Okay. Hey, Cherokee, what's going on? Thanks, Greg, for helping Tammy out. I appreciate it. Maybe the book was being read and they didn't get to finish it. Well, it's kind of, what, Cherokee, if you're still on, perhaps what's kind of ironic is that what made Robert Wise, the director of this film, to make a film as such, like The Haunting, was he had reportedly, according to an interview of him before he passed away, that he read the book one night, and all of a sudden an employer or a friend of his just happened to walk in, and it just scared the hell out of him. And he thought, well, I mean, because that pretty much told you that he was, kept on edge when while reading The Haunting of Hill House. He thought, well, I mean, if this book was enough to really shock me and keep me on, very much nervous on edge about the story, then maybe this could turn eventually into a good movie. Let's see who else we got here. Eddie, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. What's going on, Chrissy? Hey, Molto, is it available anywhere else? Moto, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I do apologize if I'm not. Are you asking about is the Haunting, the movie itself, available anywhere? If you're still on, just take a moment to respond so I could help you out with that. Let's see who else here. Who else we got watching? And while I'm waiting for the comments, what I'm going to do is because, you are still on. Okay, great. So Moto, if you're asking about the film, I'm sure you could probably order the film on Amazon. Of course, I'm sure there's probably some other sites that you could probably just download it to buy it. There are some other websites here. Send me a message and I'll see what I can do. So if you want to check it out, I can send you a link perhaps. But if you actually want to get it and buy it, you could probably buy it on Amazon or eBay or, just about any site that probably will sell it. I'm sure obviously I'm sure there's no doubt that, well, eBay, Amazon, whatever you can think of, they probably they sell stuff internationally too. So you could probably get it from one of those sites. Okay. So because I ended the trailer, the entire presentation just a few minutes early, what I'm going to do is that actually concludes the presentation for tonight. But I do have two other trailers I would like to show you guys. This is what I was originally going to show earlier today, but due to the malfunctions I had, I'm going to try this again. And I just decided to save them for last. Let's see. Charles, you said here. So you were 10. Wow. You were 10 years old when you saw it, and it drew you into. Okay. Charles, I got to ask, when you saw The Haunting in the theater in 1963, what was the entire audience like? Like, I gotta know. Because I'm always intrigued when it comes to films like that and people who actually were there when it first came out. I always want to know like what the audience reactions were. Okay, great, Malto. Yeah, just message me when you have a chance. Okay, so while I'm waiting for Charles to get back, I'm going to get things set for the next trailer. Now, the next trailer I'll be showing, again, has nothing to do with these two cases. I'm only just doing this now just to pass. Oh, screaming. Whoa, whoa. Wow. Ooh, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I mean, that's certainly something you don't see with theaters now, like with horror films nowadays. That's, God, I wish I was there for that. Okay, so next trailer I got, just to pass things off, I got as I mentioned earlier, for those who didn't see it earlier, that didn't tune in when I first started, I'm actually going to show a trailer of the original 1944 film, original 1944 movie, The Uninvited. Again, this one too had a serious tone to it, and although this too had an investigation, in partial investigation, let's say, because there was like spiritual communication. This was really, again, the real first ghost film that had a serious tone. Because it's like I said before that, and even in between, it was usually just comedic in tone. Okay, so let me just share the screen once again. Hopefully this works. Okay. So let's try this again. Just want to make sure that the screen is showing. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's the next one we got.
This is the voice of the uninvited.
It's coming from downstairs. It comes from everywhere. Nowhere.
A house of terror on the haunted cliffs of Cornwall, where the uninvited walk unseen by men. Yet a cat arches its back in fright. Flowers are withered by the touch of an unseen, malignant hand. Candles flicker and die as a ghostly chill fills the air, and the living are clutched by the icy horror of the restless dead.
Unlike The Haunting, obviously, you do see a few things in this.
The Uninvited, Dorothy McCardle's gripping novel of the supernatural, comes to the screen, starring Ray Milland, Ruth Hussey, Donald Crisp, with Cornelia Otis Skinner, and introducing the exciting beauty of Gail Russell, whose first love is shadowed by the specters of the past.
Stella, what is it?
Are you ill, Stella?
Quiet. Leave her alone.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Stop her, Scott. She's in a trance. I saw this happen once before at a seance. I thought it was a fake.
But this isn't.
I know. It's dangerous.
Please get out of this house now.
Now lie back quietly. I'm not afraid of anything here.
Then be afraid. Be afraid for heaven's sake. When you were a little child, the evils of this house reached out for you. Stella! Go! Go!
Okay, so I got one more. Okay, I got one more here to present. Now, this was actually something I should have showed when I did my first presentation. I actually found this. In fact, it's quite rare that I was able to find this. Of course, I know a number of you guys probably remember when I showed La Llorona as the first presentation. I actually did find a trailer of one of the films that was made, the early films. I was unable to find the one for the 1933 film, but I did find The Curse of the Crying Woman, which that too actually came out in 1963. Of course, the film is in Spanish, so but the trailer is only a minute. So, and then after that, we're going to conclude for tonight's episode. I've never actually seen this, so I don't know what to expect on this. Whoa.
Because she thirsted for power in the curse
Oh, it's in English.
of the crying woman. See nightmare after nightmare in the most terrifying picture ever to be shown. See the horror of her evil curses come to reality in the curse of the crying woman. See a fight to the death with a vampire.
Wait, what?
See terrifying werewolves.
Whoa! What the hell? I'm sorry. I thought this is supposed to focus on Curse of, La Llorona. It seems like it's focusing on other things.
The curse of the crying woman.
Wow. It was made by Something Weird Video. They always did something weird with their trailers. Okay, then. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, Greg once again. Oh, I'm sure. You don't care for screaming. Okay. All right. Well, sadly, I am just about almost out of time. First off, I just want to say I want to thank all of you for everyone that tuned in to take their time to check this out. I know I did have some parts that were a little bit unorganized, but for the most part, I can see that a lot of you guys really enjoyed the show regardless. I really do appreciate it, especially for me because I'm only on episode 3 of my show. So I'm still, relatively new to this, but, I'm getting the hang of it. So I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in. So thank you all. For next week's episode, just to give some details about, because I got about 3 minutes left, just to give some details for next week's episode, we're going to be talking about, I might put 2 locations in because I don't know if it's going to be enough or just one. Our next location we're going to be talking about, and this is actually in one of these places that I myself, as well as Greg, since he lives in Chicago too, I'm sure he's investigated this. We're going to be talking about Hull House in downtown Chicago, and possibly, again, depends how much how long the first presentation is. A location called the Dakota, which is out in New York. Those two also had an inspiration to another famous horror film from the 60s, but I don't want to reveal that just yet. Some of you guys may already know, but I'm not going to say it on camera just yet because I'd rather save that for next week. Just see here. We got another comment here from Charles. Doing well. Thank you very much. So yeah, that's what we'll be talking. We'll talk either about just Hull House or two locations along with the Dakota. For tomorrow night, because I'll be on, obviously a lot of you guys know I'm also on the Petri Dish. Tomorrow night we're going to be interviewing Seth David Suits Healy, who has a show of his own called Sunday with Suits here on our network. Got to know him very well. He's become a very good friend of mine. Obviously, I've been a supporter for his show. It'll be a great show. He also definitely has a great sense of humor to him. And, you guys want to check him out. I think you guys will love Suits. He's a really great guy. Finally, the last thing I just want to bring up before I end things, because Denise and Ernie were on. For those of you that don't know, we're kind of right now in a battle right now for Waverly Hills. There's a lot of issues going on. Ernie, Denise, as well as the original owners have been thrown off because of this particular I can't even think of the words, so I do apologize. This organization that's trying to take hold of the building. So if you want to save Waverly Hills, please go to savewaverlyhills.com and make a donation. Even if you have to make a small donation, that could really help out a lot, because we're trying to save this place. But just go to savewaverlyhills.com or the Facebook page. Do not go on the website, because that's the organization that's trying to get money to go against us. So, but if you have any more questions about it, please go to Ernie and Denise Pack again, they'd really appreciate your help and support if you're able to do that. Okay, so we're out of time, unfortunately. Like I said, tune in tomorrow night for the Petri dish. But until then, I guess I will see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much again, and you guys all have a great night. Thanks again. Oh, geez, I forgot to end this. All right, let's try that again. Good night, everyone.